Okay, on this part of CAD Model Features 2, we're going to be working on this little guy here, the Automoblocks figure, one of the people from the cars. Now, this is not going to have all the most specific dimensions. It's mostly for seeing how some commands work and whatnot and combining things in multiple ways. But there are going to be a few things that you can create. So to start with, you need to create this block that is 0.7575 by 0.575, extruded out to 0.3 inches. Once you've got that, is where we're going to start here, and that's by creating this ellipse that will be in the center of that shape. So there are a couple things that we have to do on that to make sure that that happens. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start a new sketch on the surface there. Now this is a square, but any four-sided regular sort of polygon shape, we can do a thing to find the center of, which is we're going to take a line. We're going to make this a construction line so that it won't affect our drawing. And we're going to draw from corner to corner the diagonals across our shape. And as we draw those diagonals, where they meet is the center of the square, which will come in really handy as we draw our ellipse. So the ellipse shape is over where circle is. So under circle is ellipse. And we're going to start it. It has a center point. So we're going to start that center point right where those two lines meet. And then it has a major axis and a minor axis. So as we draw out the first, we click, we can draw out the second, and we'll get an ellipse shape there. Well, I'm going to undo that because I forgot to turn off my construction line. So I'm going to do an ellipse again, make sure the construction line is off, and then draw the major axis of the ellipse, click, and draw the minor axis of the ellipse. Now, these don't have specific dimensions yet. We're going to add those though. So when you just click the dimension on this and then you click on the ellipse, as you drag it up, you get one dimension. As you drag it to the side, you get a different dimension. The minor axis or the small axis and the major axis or the large axis. So we're going to go up for our large axis and check back on our document. That's a 0.236 dimension. So we'll put that in. And then we're going to go and get our minor axis, or going sideways from the center. And this is a 0.155 if I remember correctly. I'm going to double check. And yep, that's the right amount. So go ahead and click that. Now that is set there as the center of that shape. So that's good enough for what we're doing here today. So we'll go ahead and finish that. And we're going to extrude that out. That's just going to go out a small amount. And it's suggested here that we extrude that out to, I believe, let's see, let's find a dimension on that. And extrude it to 0.115, so we'll do that. For our extrusion, this distance is 0.115. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to draw on top of that. So we're going to draw a sketch on top of that circle. Now when it goes to the side, we kind of lose where that shape is. So we're going to project geometry. And we're going to make sure we have that ellipse. Now that makes it easier, brings that yellow line out. We know now where that ellipse is sticking out. So I'm going to use the offset command. What this was is duplicate any particular shape as we drag it out. And as we're dragging it out, we have a dimension in there. And that is the distance between the two shapes, which in this case is 0.05. And so we've got that. So that was simple enough. We'll finish sketch on that. We're going to extrude it. Now we want both the inner and the outer parts of this. But we're going to do something a little bit different with our extrusion, and I'm going to turn this so that I can see it better. As it's going up here, we're going to make a distance of 0.84 on that. And I'm going to double click my mouse wheel to get a better picture of it. Now what I'm going to do is unextrude here. I'm going to click on the More tab. One of the things that does is it gives me a taper. And the taper is an angle so that it's changing angle as it's extruding. It's going out some. So this is where we're kind of eyeballing things, or what we think is good. And I'm going to try about 8 degrees. That's pretty good. Let's back it off a little. Check at 5 degrees. Not too bad. Let's check one other. Let's go out big this time, about 20 degrees. I think 20 degrees is too much, and that 5 was not enough, but the 8 looked pretty good, so I'm going to go with the 8 degrees and click that there. So we have a little bit of a sort of a body shape now going on with going out to, say, shoulders from sort of our foot bar down, and then we have shoulders up here. So from here we're going to do a couple of things to make this work out. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add an axis, a work axis. We haven't used the work features here, but these are like construction lines, and we can use them to show us where things need to be. So this is a work axis. We're going to actually use the drop down and go down till we find through the center of a circular or elliptical edge. And then we're going to choose one of these bottom ones here. That's the best one we can choose. We can't choose the taper here because that doesn't want that, so that's fine, but we'll choose our center of that circle from below, and that works out okay. We can see now we have a work axis which is through the center of our shape, which is good because part of what we want to do is we want to then create a plane that goes through that goes through the center of this, that's even with or parallel to one of these square faces on the bottom. So I'm going to do a work plane here. I can just click the work plane itself. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the line, the work axis we just created. And then I'm going to click the face of the rectangle here. And it's asking me for an angle, so I want to look and see what I've got. I want that to be straight across. Right now it's going to give me a plane that's sort of the opposite angle of what I want, or 90 degrees from it. So let's bring this back. Now I can use the yellow arrow. I can drag that to bring it to whatever shape I want, or I could plug in the amount. And what I want here is 0 or 360 degrees, and that negative amount, either one is fine. We just want it to be parallel to that face and in the middle of my whole shape. And so I can click the check on there. Now that's looking pretty good, because the next thing I want to do is I want to draw a sketch on that plane. Now, this is a little bit different. I don't think we've drawn a sketch on a plane yet. So I can draw the sketch, and I'm going to go and I'm going to click on the line that's on the outside of the plane. If I can just go inside the plane, it doesn't select it. It wants to select some of my object. I want to be on this plane, so I'm going to click on the yellow line at the outside. And it's going to create that work surface there. Now the problem is that that work surface is right in the middle of my shape, and it's difficult to see sometimes when you're doing something like that, no matter what angle you put it at. So we're going to use a little feature on our sketch over here. Right click on the sketch that we're just now working on, whatever your sketch number is, and we're going to come down. It's called Slice Graphics. When we slice graphics, what it does is it cuts away any of the things that are outside of that, in between us and our plane. Now that we've got that, we can start drawing the shape that we want to do. Now this shape coming from, this is where it becomes less and less precise. We're looking to create sort of a rounded shoulder bit here and kind of curve this all off. Now these dimensions aren't really exact, so we're going to have to kind of figure out some of these dimensions. And even some of the dimensions that are given on the document aren't really precise, because it says, you know, halfway here is 0.8 and the whole distance is 1.2. Well, 0.8 is not half of 1.2, so I'm going to take those with a little bit of a grain of salt and go ahead and create my shape, knowing that I want this sort of trapezoid with a arc on it. So I'm going to use the line command, and I'm going to come down here, and I know that I want to be on the corner of my shape, so I click the corner of my shape, and I'm going to drag a diagonal line out at an angle away from my shape. And I don't want it to, want to make sure that I'm not connecting with anything, that I don't have any weird constraints. It's okay, not too bad, about like that. Then I want it to go straight across. Now I do want this to be sort of parallel to the bottom there. And then we'll come back down and connect the dots at the bottom. I'm going to zoom in here just to make sure, because that looks like it didn't quite connect. I wanted to keep drawing, so I might need to correct that later. And over here, see how I'm doing? Well, it looks pretty good, but I'll keep in mind that this might not be coincident. Well, we can go ahead and check it. We'll use the coincident command and click on those points. Already exists. Okay, good. So worried for nothing. Now we're going to continue on, and we're going to add the arc up here at the top. So I'm going to use my 3-point arc. I'm going to click on the corner on each side of the top of this new shape we're drawing, and I'm going to go up. Now as I go up, I don't want it to go all the way past this. I want to be just below it just a smidge, or maybe right on it. It's probably okay. Set that about there like that. That looks pretty good so far. Now we're going to put some dimensions in to kind of rough this out. So this line here, we want that to be about 1.2 inches. But then we want to be from the center an equal amount, so we make this symmetrical. So I'm going to go dimension the side here to the middle. Now, even though I've got this work axis here, when I'm trying to select it, it's not letting me choose it. I can click all I want. So we need to get that work axis to pop a little bit, and the way we pop anything out is project geometry. So I'm going to project geometry. I'm going to come to my axis. I'm going to click on that. Makes that a nice solid yellow line. That looks different, so that's probably better. And so we'll dimension this from the corner here into our projected axis line. And that we want to be half. So I'm going to do a little thing here where I can click on the dimension that I want to be similar to it, and it puts in a dimension number. This references the other number, and I'm going to divide that by 2. So this will always be half of whatever that dimension is. So now I've got that set, and it kind of shifted it over there. Now I can see, do I like that, or what if I change the 1.2 to, say, a 1.8? And it makes it bigger, way bigger, but it adjusts this middle line as well. So I'm going to undo that and get it back here. This is kind of nice. It's right in the middle there where I want it. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and just add another dimension in here from this crossbar here down to the bottom. I'm going to put this dimension in. Right now it's at 1.03. Let's make that 1.1 and see. Well, that pushed it up above our shape, so we don't want that. That's okay. We'll adjust it. bring this down to 1.05, and we'll try that. And again, we're just trying measurements that we think will fit. And what I want, yeah, that's closer to the top of the whole shape. That's good. That's sort of what I'm looking for there. So I'll leave that 1.05 measurement in there. And I'm going to go ahead and finish sketch. Now we're going to extrude, but we're going to kind of do a special kind of extrude. So we're going to choose extrude, and then we are going to choose the top and bottom shape that we just made. And this is working from the middle here out. So we want this to be a mid-plane extrusion. So it's going both directions towards the front and the back of our figure. And we want it to be one new type. We've done joins, we've done cuts. What we haven't done is an intersect. An intersect chooses where all of the previous extrusions and the current one meet. And it only chooses that. Everything else where things don't meet disappears. So we've got that. We don't have to worry about how much the extrusion is or anything like that. It's just going to do its amount. Now, if this number was too small, that could be a problem. It's going to cut it away, but we don't really need that. We want it back where it was, so 0.84, 0.75, something that's going past that bottom edge, and we can see sort of where that would all be. Here it's scooting past it. Doesn't matter the exact amount as long as it's past that. So we click OK, and we get our shape now. Now as we do this shape, we can see that it's got more of that rounded shoulder bit, so that makes it more look like the figure that we're going for. And now we're going to create a head on top of this, so we're going to create another sketch. We're going to use the same work plane, and we're going to create our head here. Now, again, there's not exact dimensions on this, so you get to sort of make the head on here look however you want, tall, short, skinny, fat. It's up to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start below my work axis here, try and center that, and go straight up. And this is how I get to decide how tall it is. It's already down inside the body a little bit, so that will work out good in my opinion. And then this is the axis that the head is going to revolve around when we draw this out. I'm going to draw a line off to the side. I'm just sort of eyeballing it here. If I go closer, it'll be a skinnier head. If I go further out, it'll be a fat head. I'm going to just kind of go in the middle here, and I'm going to do a line that's parallel. It's not going to go the full distance, just part of the distance in between. And I'm going to use an arc between these to give it a little bit more rounded shape to make the head. Now, however you make the head is up to you. I think this works pretty well here. And now I'm going to make sure that I do connect at the bottom there, find that green dot showing I'm connecting to the bottom of the line, even though that line, I don't see it. I don't want to go too low. I need to connect so I have a complete shape. And then just sort of draw my radius out like that. Now if I want to adjust any of these numbers, I can go ahead and throw a dimension or two on here. One of the things I'm looking at is I see this, it looks like this arc is sort of turning in a little bit, and I don't like the look at that. It means I'll sort of have the weird flat space on my person's head, so I'm going to just make that a little bit bigger and see if that helps. Not quite what I was after. Maybe I need to throw a dimension between the two to kind of lock them together. I can pull this in a little bit and see if that works out. Maybe try extending this up a little bit more now that I've locked the other things in place. Well, that's not too bad. We'll go with that. Again, your dimensions can be what you want. So then I'm going to finish sketch, revolve. It's got that shape, so all I need to do is put the rotation axis on it, and now I've got my head for my body. Now the last thing I want to do here is just to see my figure a little bit better, kind of rotate it around. The thing that's bugging me though is I got this work plane, that big yellow thing sticking through it, and I got the yellow work axis too. So to deal with that, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to my work plane in my browser. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to come down here to visibility, and I'm going to check that. Now that goes away. That looks much better. I still have the work axis showing, so underneath the work axis is where the work plane is, or underneath the work plane is where the work axis is. So I'm going to right click on that and check the visibility on that. And now I've got my little body. It's got a little bit of dimple in the top there. I can live with that. That's all right. I have my basic shape of the body and the head. So your dimensions don't have to be exact like this. The only thing that really is exact is the square base and the oval here, and how high this basically goes. Might be trimmed a little bit depending on where you put your shoulder sketch in there, but that's fine. Make sure it looks roughly like this. And then we'll save as, put that into our model features part 2, where we have other things, and this is just figure is what we call this one, and we'll save that one. And that brings us to the end of this video.